from the local band just roll in with. It's going to be a good fit to be something that could be kind of a pop, rock, good variety. It could fit a lot of different genres type of kit. So right off the bat, we're starting with something that is good. It sounds good. That seems obvious, but if you are just getting started, a lot of the times the bands that you're going to be working with, they only have one option, and it may not be that great. And so you need to be realistic about what you're going to achieve with a really mediocre, or even worse than that, drum kit. Two mics on a snare drum like this, you probably want to invert the polarity, the phase of one of those mics, because they are shooting at each other, and odds are it's going to sound better if you flip the phase, if you invert the polarity of one of them. Now, that may not be the case, but you definitely want to listen back in your DAW when you're mixing and check it both ways to see which way the snare sounds bigger and fatter. If you lose a lot of bass with it one way, then that's the wrong way. You want to flip the phase and see if you can get the bottom end back in your snare. Same thing with toms, probably 2 or 3 inches of the drum. These are the Sennheiser MD421s. On the kick, I have this particular kick drum doesn't have a port on it, and that's okay, because you can still mic a bass drum without a port in about the same way you would one with a port. I have the D112 maybe a couple inches out. I might have been tempted to throw a packing blanket over the top of this to kind of keep some of the spill from getting into this mic so I could do even more extreme stuff with the bass drum, but that would have made it look way less pretty for the video. So we're going to take one for the video team here and keep things looking pretty. We are going to move on to these crazy overheads up here. These guys are really nice microphones. These are Rupert Neve designed small diaphragm condensers from SE, and they are, probably 7 feet off the ground. I've got them lined up in front of the snare so that my plan is that they're going to be mostly cymbals. Now, they're going to get tons of kit as well, but when I EQ them, I'm probably going to scoop out the mids so that all we get is highs. We'll see. I never know for sure what I'm going to do, but I'm guessing that if I'm just going to use them as cymbal mics, I'll end up EQing them as such. Finally, my secret weapon is this ribbon mic. This is a stereo ribbon mic. It is just fantastic. It's this huge black capsule looking thing. And it's set up in XY, so it's got a left and a right, even though it looks like it's shooting straight down. And it is like just a huge low end, very warm. You can kind of blend it in and change the tonality of your drum kit. You can put a compressor on it and just make it slam. It's just nice to have options. You know that I'm big into options, and so this is another option for an overhead. And I could even use it instead of the RN17s if I liked it enough, or I could blend it or whatever. Last but not least, we're going to walk over here and check out my AKG 414 room mic. Now, in a small room, a lot of times you don't get a whole lot of benefit from a room mic. But in a big room like this, having a microphone that's back 8 or 9 feet can be a huge deal, because it's going to get a completely different image of the drum kit, since every other mic is like within, 4 feet or 4 inches. This one's 8 feet away. I've actually got it set to Omni mode, so it's listening to the whole room. It's not just shooting directionally at the drums. And again, it's going to give me more options. I can use it if it sounds good. I can not use it if I don't like it, but it's going to have a color that no other mic has. So all of this is being run into this mixing board over here, which is doubling as my audio interface. And I am using the first 8 channels and then the next 1, 2, 3, because my ribbon mic is actually in stereo. And so I've got 16 channels here, and I'm using most of them just for the drums. So you can kind of imagine how easy it is to run out of inputs if you're going to record a full band, especially if you were going to be trying to close mic all the drums or do any fancy stuff like we're doing today. Very, very quick to run out of inputs. So we, in this instance, the idea is that we are overdubbing. So I probably would have had Tanner using a click track. So we would have laid everything down according to whatever tempo we'd already determined we were going to use for the song. And then we would do all this, tear it all down, and bring the band in later to come in and overdub part by part by part. That's kind of what we've been doing so far this semester anyway, is approaching everything in an overdub mentality where one musician comes in at a time. We are going to switch gears on that later on. In fact, very, very soon, in the next couple of weeks, we're going to start talking about doing a session where everybody's playing at the same time. And that's going to kind of turn things around a little bit, because really, we've just got to the drums after talking about vocals and guitars and so on. But when you're actually doing this, drums are where you start. You lay down the drums first because the rhythm has to be solid. And we didn't do this primarily because it's easier to just learn about recording when you're talking about one mic instead of 12 mics. So we kind of went the route of what's the easiest way to educate you about the basics. But we've gotten to that middle point now where you have been educated, at least got your toes wet anyway, and now we're going to switch gears and really talk about what it means in the next couple of weeks to plan a session, to communicate with the client, to figure out how everything's going to work. Thanks.